Hold on. We're getting live on TikTok still. Bear with us, folks. We're almost there. We're almost there. We're almost there. There we go. Whoop. Take it down. Hey, there we are. No, we got Curtis now. Wait a minute. What's going on here? Back to Lindsay. Come on. Do it. There.
There he is.
Hey, in case you haven't figured it out, we got a producer now.
He's learning. Everyone, please be gentle and considerate and kind with him.
Anybody who gives him any shit's going to answer to me. Not that he needs me to defend him by any stretch of the imagination. Guest country, TikTok is still live. In fact, we're live on TikTok right now. So in case you didn't notice, Curtis has joined us. We've, I guess, drafted him, I guess is the way to put it, right, Linz?
We've bullied him into
him. I like that better. Well, that'll get us taken down now because you used the magic word there. Curtis is going to be producing the show. In time to time, may even join in with us. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Bear with us because he's learning the software, but my life just got a hell of a lot easier. Houston just said, Lindsay, you've changed.
I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, she lost her hair apparently. So, and you know, not having hair makes you a horrible person. I get told that every single day. Anyway, let's jump in. So how the hell's Lindsay?
Lindsay's had a trying day, but I want to get into our topic.
Wow. Well, it's good to see you. We have not chat. We used to chat every day. We haven't talked.
To be fair, you have been busy. I have been busy.
Busy? Yeah, I'm away next week for those that don't know. So it's up to Lindsay and Curtis whether they're going to do a show. I hope they will, but I will be away next week. So I've been trying to get videos done to post next week and helping some legislative efforts behind the scenes. Good news in case you missed it. I don't know if you saw this, Lindsay. North Dakota passed a bill saying that custodial interference, to use a New York term, if you interfere with custodial time, parenting time, you will be guaranteed to get that time back within 2 years. So, I mean, it's, again, I always say this, it's not a perfect bill by any stretch. But what a huge step forward to protect, let's be honest, mostly fathers, right? So another win. If you want to get more detail on it, go on my Facebook or my YouTube in the community section. I did a whole thing on it. So huge news on that. All right, let's dive in.
Dun 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 to the train wreck.
The train.
That is Netflix's Adolescence, which is a fictional story, by the way, but it is being treated. What? Yes, it is a fictional story that is being treated as though it is a documentary and gospel, to the point that the UK Prime Minister government level is even talking about adding it to the school curriculum because of the themes expressed in the fictional story.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, and I don't even know if Lindsay has seen it, I did a video that I posted last Sunday where I tore it apart, right? Where I actually went and looked at the real data. So just to throw it out there, for those that haven't seen the show, the background on it, you got to keep this within community guidelines, right? A young lad of 13 unalives a female classmate of his who has, by the way, bullied him for years and gets arrested in the first episode. And then it goes from there. So the whole thing behind it is this young boy of 13 who I'm just going to point out happens to be white, and you'll see why in a moment, is then portrayed as representative of all teens, but especially white ones, throughout the UK. And then they also go into how this is the manosphere's problem. They created these men. So me being me. Go ahead.
Yes, Steve, I know it was based on a real case. However, they
Are you getting to that?
completely radicalized the case and took many, 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 many creative liberties.
Yeah.
Many, many.
That case was not a white male. Oops, we don't want to talk about that. And in reality, it really wasn't based on that case. It wasn't, right? So
it was about it. It was about as based on that case as the animated movie Balto was based on Balto.
Good way to put it. So for those that don't know, somebody mentioned this to me the other day. Like, who wrote this thing? It's actually the guy that plays the father in the show. He's the producer and one of the writers. Okay, this is all multiple interviews that he's done, where he alludes to the fact that it's partially based on that case. Leaves out the convenient facts like he switched the race and a few other things. Okay. But I went in, I said, you know what? I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to dive into the data. And I spent the better part of 3 days researching this, probably 10 to 12 hours total. Only looking at the UK because that's where the show was from. So from 2014 to 2024, guess how many cases there were like this?
3.
Young boy, 13. I used the age range 10 to 15, who knifed a female classmate. Take a guess.
0.
That would be the correct guess. 0. Not 1. And that's the point that Lindsay's making, is because they're telling everyone that this is an epidemic. An epidemic of 0? Just saying.
If that's an epidemic, can we have more of them?
Really, you know. And oh, by the way, and again, go watch my video if you want the more. I don't want to spend an hour here going into the depths of the data. Guess how many young ladies there were who happened to unalive someone in that same age group?
I don't know, but I know that they attack more often.
In the same scenario, 0. But I went further. Just again, one final part on data. I then extrapolated and expanded my search and said, well, how many boys 10 to 15 have unalived anyone in the last 10 years? I found one case, and it's not the one the authors were referencing, which is interesting. But I also found one case where 2 girls did it, and it's in my video for the data, okay? So again, they're portraying this as an epidemic, males in particular, rampantly going around unaliving people, and it's being taken as factual. It's all a lie.
The interesting thing that I got out of it, and granted, I only got to watch half of it with the volume full up. I had a sick child I had to go get today, so I had to then turn it down to mute and try and take notes. It was also very difficult to get through this video because I kept having to pause it just to like vent and pace and go. It was very trying to watch this. And they point to him being radical. First of all, let's say that what the elephant is. He's 13. If we're going to treat a 13-year-old girl who attacks a schoolmate because she was radicalized online, say Tumblr, for example, and say that she's not responsible because she's a child who was led astray by, dogma, and she can't possibly be held responsible for her actions, where is that grace for boys?
Good point.
Because at 13, when I was at 13, if you had explained something to me in a way that sounded logical, I probably would have believed you. I mean, there's 12-year-olds who still believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. So, I mean, 13 is 13. Now, so let's get that disclaimer out of the way. And then there's the fact that they kept pointing to the fact that he was radicalized online, which that's very true.
Specifically naming Andrew
Tate and trying to make it sound like this is common.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's an epidemic.
it is an epidemic. And I have to look at my notes here. First of all, yes, guys are Andrew Tate is out there, but you know what's out there more often than Andrew Tate? Misandry. The internet
Feminism.
is feminism is everywhere. Andrew Tate, while he has an online presence, his online presence is nowhere near that of radical feminism, which is radicalizing women. There was a case just recently in Texas, I believe, or at least I heard about it in Texas, where 2 women committed a hate crime and unalived a man.
I mean, it's ridiculous. We have to change our word. We all know what the terms are.
They unalived a man for no other reason than he was a man. He was a disabled man too. So it was a double hate crime for sex and disability. And they did it because they saw online all this feminism crap saying that men are the enemy and they're all out to get us. And they took it as gospel and they went and they did something about it. Women in the US at least are more likely to be susceptible to be radicalized by something they see online than men. Right. Several years ago, we had a rush of young girls actually move to foreign countries because they wanted to become prophet wives or something because of stuff they saw online. You don't see that happening with boys, not in those kinds of numbers. So my biggest problem with this show was the fact that they act like that there's like this big boogeyman who is reaching through your screen to radicalize your son, and they're all going to go out and be little unaliving bots.
And that's, I mean, he didn't quite say it the way you did, but that's what Stephen Graham, if I remember, I'm doing the name from memory. I think his name was Stephen Graham, who plays the father in the show. So he's a writer, producer on the show, obviously acting. And I'm going to be very upfront. The acting in this show was great. All right. The young boy in particular, I thought did an outstanding job as an actor, separating all the other stuff. I actually thought the father did a great job as an actor. But something that I think a lot of people don't know is the name of the production company that wrote it, that the actor and the producer owns, which starts with the word matriarchy. Oops. You think that might be a little giveaway that this is not going to be favorable towards men and boys? But again, to go to Lindsay's point, they are taking this as an actual documentary. I have seen multiple videos on TikTok in particular of women claiming that this is a documentary when it is anything but. It's a work of fiction. It's a work of fiction based on falsehoods. And it's about, as I would equate it to, hate speech towards men, and well, in particular boys.
So I didn't do UK numbers, but I did pull the numbers for the FBI numbers for the US. The show makes it sound like men are being, it makes it sound like women are being the victim of radicalized boys that have been radicalized online. Ironically, the most likely group of people to be taken advantage of through the internet are boys, but not in the way the show portrays. Upward of, in 2003, the FBI linked over 3,000 sextortion cases where boys ages...
You gotta say.
Smextortion. Boys ages 13, 14, and 15 are being blackmailed for either smex or financial. Usually, it's usually financially linked.
Yep.
Online by, guess what? Either adults or girls. In many cases, the people that are extorting them are their own female classmates. So girls their own age.
Yep.
So again, if we're going to sit there and say that a 13-year-old boy can be held to this standard of basically he's an adult and should suffer the consequences thereof, well, then what about the girls that are doing the radicalizing? And then I think I read an article somewhere many years ago, not now, when the first Tumblr and whatnot was still a big thing. It's not really as big a thing anymore. But a lot of the quote unquote misandrist stuff out there was all written by women.
Yep. Very common.
It's written by women and portrayed as this is what men think, but it is complete fiction. It's what these women think is out there, not what actually is out there. And then they go to websites like Tumblr or like, social media, and they take these accounts that are of misandry that are completely fictional, written by women that never happened, and they're like, this is proof that misandry is real. And it's like, no, it's not. It's proof that someone wants very much for it to be real.
Well, I mean, I've got a video coming out Sunday, I think it's scheduled for, about which women are, if you spent 2 minutes on any social media now, women are running around screaming about it. They're literally jumping for joy over it, saying, well, this is, it was based on scientific research and blah, blah, blah. No, it wasn't. And I, again, I don't want to go in the weeds on it, but I did a whole deep dive on it. It was written by one guy who, while he won't admit he's a feminist, clearly is, who took a bunch of data and came out with an opinion on it. Now, how many videos have we all seen recently about the male loneliness epidemic? There isn't one, right? It's the same scenario. It's where, and then the other side of it is, to Lindsay's point, I hate to break it to you, but there's women out there posing as men, writing stuff to stir things up. And if you think there's not, let me tell you, I've infiltrated one. Well, I have two groups I've infiltrated where they're coordinating this stuff. And the day is going to come down the road where I'm going to expose it all. I mean, and I don't want to give away anything because I don't want to get found out because I'm just lurking right now. But I have infiltrated one of those "Are you dating this man?" groups in Facebook. Actually, two of them. And the crap that is going on in there would blow your minds regarding what they're saying about men. But there's also, I am trying to weave into more their Discord servers where they coordinate attacks and where they plan things and talk about, well, I'll create an account where I pretend to be a guy and go say things. It's happening all the time. So I'm no fan of Andrew Tate. I know you're not, Lindsay, right? We talk about him all the time. I think he's hurts men by far more than he does help them. And he portrays a fantasy. Okay. He's no better than the women or the people who created adolescence, but they are portraying this, pushing this, that he's speaking for people like Winston, which he's not. I disavow myself from him completely, and I know you do too, Lindsay. It's their goal behind all of this is to silence us talking about our issues or the issues that men and boys face. It's why they attack this show on TikTok literally every single week.
So I got into an argument with someone in the comment section, or a friendly debate, on the subject of this show. And I go, okay, so let's pretend that it is a documentary and this is happening. Rather than say, oh, the boys are being radicalized, this is what you should be taking away from it. We have failed our boys because they're being radicalized. They're being left on their own, or and we cannot discredit the fact that even in the show, it wasn't like he just woke up one day and said, I'm going to attack her. He had probable cause. Was it good probable cause? No.
No.
But if you're
What?
bullied incessantly,
Yeah, what? And
what
they
person
glossed
isn't going
over
to
that,
they
right?
glossed completely over it.
They brought it up, talked about it, and I think the goal was to make the police officer who was a father with his son seem human, if you will. But then they tossed it aside, and by the way, it never comes up in the rest of the episodes. But basically, what they alluded to was the girl he unalived bullied him mercilessly for quite a period of time, and you
So
can
we have we
extrapolate from that he snapped. I'm
so
not
we
saying it's right, but
so we failed our boys because we allow this to we allow this to happen, because if it was bullying the other way, it would have been stopped wholesale at the very beginning. Boys are not allowed to pick on girls that way, and it's stopped almost every time it's seen. But girls are always made excuses for, oh, he can take it, oh, she can't really do anything to hurt him, oh, she doesn't mean any harm, oh, he'll grow out of it. 10 years from now it won't matter. As someone who was relentlessly bullied, I still bear the scars. Trust me, it matters. So he was pushed to this, and we have failed our boys to such an extent, because let's pretend for a moment that this is actual gospel. Then the takeaway from this movie is not that boys are the problem. It's that society has made boys so susceptible to being the victim that they now must go out and find their own justice because no one is willing to do it for them.
good way to put
That
it.
was that was my argument.
Did you get to the episode? I think it's the third one where he meets with a therapist.
No.
All right, so that it's too bad because I lost my mind on that one. When I was I had to watch this over 4 days. I had time to sit and watch the whole thing in one time, but in a nutshell, because almost the full episode of that one, I think it was the third one because there was 4, right? Is him interacting with a therapist, a female therapist. And I will say that was the one thing they showed that probably could be considered a documentary, because she clearly went in there with a preconceived notion that he was guilty and there was something wrong with him. She showed zero compassion, concern, or anything about his being bullied, dismissed it completely, and goaded him into anger. Why? Because she wanted him to do that to fit her already decided conclusion before she set foot in the room. And it's why the message was loud and clear, although the producers and the writers will never acknowledge it, is that men and boys should not go to a therapist. I watched that episode. I had to shut it off a couple times, and I'm like, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll try and be nice about it. That they were trying to show, how therapy should work or something like that. What they ended up showing is that no man or boy is safe going to a therapist ever. And that is so bad. That, to me, that was the worst part of the whole thing. That episode was tragic moving forward, because if I were a teenage boy watching that, now mind you, I'm almost 62 years old. I'm watching that and I know my stuff, right? I wouldn't ever go to a therapist after watching that. A 15-year-old boy, say, who's struggling, being bullied, there's no way in hell he's going to open up after seeing that. And don't think kids aren't watching this. Schools want to push this on the kids. Can you imagine sitting there in high school? Let's say you're a sophomore in high school and you're watching this and you're a boy being bullied. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen. The pew-pews in the schools are going to skyrocket because of this show.
Because
there, I'm set. Save this tape. Make sure you save it, because I'm telling you it's coming.
The great irony is if this were, let's flip the genders, and a female had been relentlessly bullied by a male, and she had done something about retaliated, it would have been empowerment. It would have been a tale of a parable of empowerment. Look what she did. She took her victim status and she went and she got justice for herself. But because the victim was female and the bully was female and the perpetrator was male, all men are bad.
Yep.
Let's ignore the part that, because that's the thing that I keep coming back to, is because as someone who was, like I said, relentlessly bullied, I was never relentlessly bullied by other boys. I was relentlessly bullied by other girls. I know how mean they are. I also watched them bully boys because they did the same thing to the boys that they did to me. In fact, I would argue they were actually meaner to me than they were the boys.
Oh, for sure. I've worked in K-12. 100% on that. They're
But
always working the girls.
But I still watched them relentlessly attack boys. And I even made the mistake a couple times of trying to intervene. I got punched in the face once. But we're supposed to see. I watched the parts of it that I did watch. I didn't see the boy as the victim, or I didn't see the boy as the perpetrator. I saw him as a victim. He was the victim of a system that completely and utterly failed him and is trying to make him out to be the monster.
Yep.
When the monster is, now, I don't agree with what he did, but as a child, who's scared and constantly being attacked, morality doesn't really play a game, doesn't really take hold of you the way it would as an adult. Mm-hmm. It's kind of fight or flight. So he thought that the only way out, the only way to survive, was to get rid of his tormentor.
And that's what he did.
And that's what he did.
Yeah, we're not condoning what he did. Let's be clear on that, because as I said when I made my video, I put in it multiple times because I know Mr. Clippy is going to go take that video and chop it up to make it look like I'm saying, oh, good for him, rah, rah, boy. No, I don't condone it in any way, and I know Lindsay doesn't either. Nobody does. That is never the solution. But that doesn't mean we can't sit back and say we understand why. We can understand what. Now, I was a redhead, so I bullied mostly because of my size, right? But I can understand it to a certain level, not to the level that, say, Lindsay or this young boy does. But I remember there was a boy. His name was Christian, who I wasn't friends with him, but he lived down the street from me. So, I knew of him. He was probably 3 blocks away from me. He was relentlessly bullied, literally from kindergarten on, because we were in the same grade. We went to school together from kindergarten all the way till graduation. That boy was bullied mercilessly, both boys and girls doing it, especially the girls. He ended up unaliving himself. And I feel horribly guilty about that to this day. I never bullied him. I can honestly say that, but I never defended him either. Right? I saw people bullying him and I never said or did anything about it. That's on me. I take the blame for that. And, as I look back on it now, as I got more well-versed in how this affects people and so on, as I did research into boys unaliving themselves, how he survived as long as he did, I don't know. Why he didn't off himself in high school particularly, I'll never know. He waited till he was early 30s. And this is 25 years ago. Vividly, I remember classmates.com. It's probably still around, right? Mm-hmm. That was, this is in the late 90s. I think it was 98 or 99. 98, I think. That's when that, was on. We were all reconnecting on there. And somebody said, hey, did you hear? And so on, right? They put a lot of the details out there. And I'm like I feel guilt about it to this day. Not because I did anything to the poor boy, but I didn't defend him. I failed him, just like every adult in adolescence failed that young boy. And I'll bring out a point to your point, Lindsay. It was episode 1 or 2. The police are doing their investigation. They go to the school. I think somebody pulled the fire alarm, if I remember right. So all the kids get pushed outside. And a girl violently attacks another boy. with the two police officers doing the investigation, literally watching it happen. She committed a felony assault and battery. Did anything happen to her? Nope. She got hauled off to the principal's office for, and got a stern talking to, which in reality was nothing more than, nice job, girl, you defended us. Actually, if you watch it with an open mind, they're not holding her accountable at all. They're justifying what she did. Now, imagine if a boy did that, another boy, right? Nothing happened to that girl. So what the message was, loud and clear, we're going to hold boys accountable, but when a girl on the camera of their quote unquote documentary commits felony assault and battery, we're going to say it's okay. To your point where you said if a girl does it, she gets away with it.
The irony is that there's a hierarchy in girl victimhood as well, because I have my best friend's daughter was assaulted on school, but because she's a troublemaker, the girls that assaulted her got away scot-free, and she got sent to ISS for starting a fight because she defended herself. I was the same way. I wasn't popular. I wasn't in with the teachers. I didn't kiss anyone's ass. And if I defended myself, I'm the one who got in trouble. Because you should know better. You're in AP classes and you're in honor roll, and you should know better than to get into these kinds of fights. I was backed into a corner by 3 girls who were much larger than I. All I wanted to do was leave, and I shoved one. Why am I in here getting lectured and they're not getting lectured for trapping me? And I've been saying it before, and I've said it again for years now with the presence of online bullying. And it is a thing. I'm not saying online bullying doesn't exist. It actually exists. And so does radicalization and all of that, radicalization and all of that. But I still don't think it is the epidemic that a lot of these fictional portrayals want you to believe it is. They would have you believe, when I was in school, would believe that girls are offing themselves left, right, and sideways because of people saying they're fat online. When it was presented to me as a teenager, because it was definitely presented to me in high school, I was like, oh my God, this is so horrible. As an adult, I looked back on it and looked it up. 2-3 cases maybe. But it was everywhere. It was on Dr. Phil, it was on Oprah, and it was all of that. And that's what they're doing here. They're taking 1 or 2 cases of boys being radicalized, which, again, girls are radicalized too, by the way, at greater numbers than boys are.
Far more than boys are.
And they're trying to make an epidemic where there is none. They're trying to take a few small isolated incidents, which almost all have nuance in them, strip the nuance completely out of it, and paint it as one brushstroke, simple, open and shut case, and then try and make it sound like this is happening everywhere. And the fact of the matter is that it's not.
It's a falsehood designed to create and spread hatred towards men and boys. It's that simple. It really is. All right, we're about a half hour in. Not a fun subject today. We're a pretty serious one, but I don't even know how to say it the right way. If you're enjoying the show, that sounds awful. Really awful. Let's be honest.
How about if you appreciate the show?
Show us some love. That was our producer, Curtis, jumping in. Show us some love. Give us the heart. Give us the like. Share this, please, because I'm going to tell you right now, looking at the stats, TikTok's already throttling it. Shocking, I know. And hey, don't forget, you can always gift the hat and mustache over on TikTok and get a yeehaw from Lindsay. By the way, thank you to SP, Jen, X, Bob, Elias, and Coxie Roxy for the gifts. All right, jumping back. Oh, Coxie just sent a hat and mustache. So,
yeehaw!
There we go. All right. So I want to kind of circle back on some of this stuff. So, because these are important points. And I know the feminists are going to come on here and try and shut this down, especially on TikTok, because we're bad-mouthing women. No, we're not. We're bad-mouthing society, really. Because let's be clear, the main producers, the main writers, all of the Netflix high-level people, the CEOs, chairman of the board, are men, not women. Now, there is a female producer who happens to be married to the guy who plays the dad on the show, but she's not out there. He's the one out there trumpeting this as, we're exposing what's going on. This guy hates men, clearly. Hates boys. Forget men. He hates boys. He wants to make them a target. He'll never admit it, and Netflix posting this, and I've emailed them. I even called them because I got a number to the CEO's office. They don't care. They think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're doing a service to protect young girls. What
from a problem they created?
From a problem they create, a falsehood they create. It's not even it's a falsehood. That's the thing. It's a complete falsehood based not even on a real case. Because if you actually look at that case they're referencing, it's not the same. Starting with two different races, okay? They twisted and manipulated the facts of that case to create this. The reality is that case has nothing to do with what actually happens in the show. But they don't want to have that conversation. They know if they say it, people will believe it and never check on it. And as Lindsay pointed out earlier, there are dozens of women running around treating this like it's a documentary. I haven't seen a TikTok, spent a minute on TikTok or a day on TikTok and not seen a video on this. Them all, oh my God, look at, we're all getting killed. Nobody cares. No, you're not. Sorry, you're not. And I'm not dismissing the few cases there are. Those are tragic cases. They should be talked about. But can we talk about them with some sense instead of pushing an agenda? Can we address the real issue where bullying is going on of boys by girls, which in this scenario, even though it's fictional, created him to snap and do what he did? We talk about how many young boys are unaliving themselves because of girls doing these things and never being held accountable. We don't care about them. We being society. We don't. You cannot tell me we do when you put a show like Adolescence out.
Not only that, but I looked up bullying stats while I was doing my pause the video because I could only take like 10 minutes of this thing at a time before I was ready to scream. And we know that bullying is pretty even. Girls do it to boys do it to girls do it to other girls, boys do it to other boys. What we do know is that boys are far less likely to report bullying if their bully is female. And if they report it, male or female, they're laughed at or told to walk it off or ignore it. Ignore it was my favorite one. And it's still told to ignore it. And I have flat out told my boys that if they're ever attacked like that, they have a right to defend themselves. I don't care if the school suspends you. They can expel you for all you care. I'll buy you ice cream because
I'm the same way.
You have a right to defend yourself. We cannot teach children they have no right to defend themselves and then be surprised when they finally do in bad ways. Because this is what happened in this show. He defended himself. He did it in the worst way possible, and I don't condone it, but if someone had actually been proactive and taught him how to defend himself or allowed him to defend himself, because in a lot of places, boys want to defend themselves. Men want to defend themselves. And society tells them, no, you can't. So eventually, after being told by society, no, you can't, no, you can't, no, you can't, you're not allowed to defend yourself, no, you can't. Are we really surprised that boys snap? I mean, if you look at the background of most school pupilers, they were all relentlessly bullied. They all had bad home lives. Most of them had no father figure. And they snapped.
Yep.
Was what they did, a good thing? No, I'm not saying it is. but we create the environment that makes them snap, and then we blame the person that snaps rather than the environment that created them.
Exactly.
Personally, I would think that if we wanted to fix the problem, we should fix the environment that keeps creating the product. Instead of punishing the product for being created by the environment, we should stop the environment or fix the environment. But we're not. We just keep doubling down and making the environment that much worse.
Well, it's why, and I've made this argument. I alluded to it, and I think I talked a little bit about it in my video, which if you want to see it, it's up on YouTube and Rumbles. I don't think it's anywhere else because it's too long. It's like 35 minutes long. A good 35 minutes. You should go watch it. And I'm not saying that to trumpet myself, but I put a lot of work into this, and I'm hoping people will watch it and then do something because of it, which is what Lindsay's talking about is, I worked in K-12 for a couple of years. I had to get out because I saw exactly what Lindsay's talking about going on, where they don't care about boys. And I remember we were at a meeting of all the school districts in our area when Sandy Hook happened. So we were, I was the chief technology officer. So the principals, myself, there was a bunch of us, the heads of the schools from our district, but all the districts in our area. We all went to this conference, which was at a local hotel. And, they had a keynote speaker who was going to start speaking. And then all of a sudden, everybody starts getting up and leaving. Our phones are literally blowing up, including mine, right? Because the word got out about what was going on in Sandy Hook. So I saw that happen, and tragic, absolutely tragic. But what I saw and this is the reason I left, it was directly related to this. I saw the response that was being put out, which was to blame all boys, right? And I remember saying, there's something here that nobody's talking about, which is at the time I had done research, it was something like 90-something% of the boys who committed that crime, that horror, were from single mother families and had been bullied. This data is readily available. They did not want to hear it. They could not wait to shut me down in that meeting. In fact, they did. Because they don't want to acknowledge it. And because God forbid we have an honest discussion when, no, we'll blame the gun instead, right? And then I should have mentioned this, but I didn't. But I did further research after that. It's one of the big drivers why boys 15 to 19 are unaliving themselves. It's the same scenario. They are othered. That's the term I use from birth. You don't matter. You're evil. You're bad. You're blah, blah, blah. Fill in the blanks every day of their lives. They go to school. They have to sit in lectures being told how bad they are. I remember Australia doing that. Go to any college. Day one of orientation, the boys have to attend a class on how they are R'ers and SA'ers. Girls don't. You drive that into boys every day. You show them zero empathy, and then we sit and wonder why they can't have empathy for anyone else. To go do what they do. The blame isn't the boys. The blame is on us. And all of us, that includes myself and Lindsay, because we're not standing up enough. We're trying. Lindsay is, I am. But if we don't pick up the freaking phone or emails and go to Netflix and go, I want you to know how toxic your show is. Better yet, if you're on the paid version, because I had to re-sign up to watch it. So I was getting commercials. Don't think I didn't make note of who was the advertisers. And it's going to be different for everyone. Contact the advertisers and say, I want to understand, do you support this toxicity towards boys? Look at Bud Light. Bud Light literally shut down their factory, Anheuser-Busch, because we all stood up and said, we're not going to tolerate that commercial. Where's the same concern and level of action about boys? There isn't any. We're worried about some guys dressing up as a woman making a beer commercial, which in the scheme of life, who the F cares compared to boys suffering the way they are? mind blowing to me. It pisses me off to no end.
Oh, did I call you? I'm sorry.
Gillette's another one. Houston just mentioned Gillette. Another one, right? The way to stop this stuff is we need to step up and speak out, not just post things on my videos, because guys were commenting like crazy. I put the emails in the, because I had to look it up while Lindsay was talking earlier. I've got the emails for the next Netflix heads in the notes on my video on YouTube. Go there, send every one of them an email. Ask them in whatever way you want. Why are you for this? Because let me tell you, the chairman of the board, Reed Hastings, is out there flaunting this one. So are both of the CEOs, Greg Peters and Ted Sarandos, talking about how great this show is. Really? Really? It's that good, huh? Now, they're not going to reply to nobody like me, but if 10,000 of us did, we could Bud Light them, but we don't want to for whatever reason.
In many cases, I think that it's become so... The hatred of men and boys has become so institutionalized.
Squirrel just went.
It's so systemic that it doesn't really register anymore.
It's ingrained.
It's ingrained. So a lot of people will watch this show and they'll think nothing of it. They won't think about the deeper underlying message that this is sending. They're like, oh, it's a TV show. It's fiction. Yeah, it is. But art imitates life. Mm-hmm. Or in this case, art is being used to tell a falsehood. They're trying to say this art is imitating life when it's not. That's the lie. They're trying to make this sound like we were saying, that it's an epidemic, that it's everywhere, that it's happening, left, right, and sideways, that women should just stay in our house and be very, very afraid for the rest of our life because boys are all out to get us.
How does that help women? We talk about this all the time. You want them living in fear all the time? Tell me the benefit to women feminists. Let's hear it. I'd love to hear you answer that one.
Well, on Monday, my internet went out. And I had not one, not two, but three very nice workmen in my house, in and out, trying to get my internet back up. Not once did I clutch my pearls and go, I'm going to die. I didn't hesitate to let them in my house.
You're supposed to live in fear, Lindsay.
I'm not very...
I mean, God, you can't walk the streets or be around because men are going to do something to you.
Do you know that I have never...
You'll have no problem getting into a Lyft and Uber driven by a man. Just saying.
I will be 36 this year. I'm 35 right now. And I have never, not once, ever been catcalled in public, ever. And the only two people that have ever whistled at me were my dad when I was dressing up for a band banquet and my husband. That's it. That's it. Two.
I feel like I've let you down now.
Well, to be fair, you've never seen me like dressed up in formal wear. But
no, I have. Well, I mean, I have. You had that one. Well, it's the picture that's on our promo. But again, I think if you like a daughter, so it's just not going to be something I would do.
But
anyway.
My point is, they're like, well, have you ever been whistled at? Like someone asked me that, and I said, for the intents and purposes of that question, no, I have not, because the only two times I've ever been whistled at, it was meant as a compliment, and that's how I took it. And it was both men who were familiar to me. I have never had a stranger stop me on the street. I've never had a damn girl, you look good. Like they claim that happens, like, because if you would listen to the women online, and then the women, it would be one thing if it was just online, but what is happening online is now being played out in real life. Is you would think that this happens as soon as I walk out the door. Every interaction or every other interaction I have with a man is going to be a negative one. I have more interactions with women that are negative in my day-to-day life than I do.
Country said he can't whistle, but he can try if you want. So everybody go find the little whistle icon emoji and post it in the comments just for Lindsay. But to your point, I mean, can I say I've never catcalled a woman? No, I can't. I did. I have. but I didn't mean it like I was going to go attack her, right? It's just, hey, you look good. Wow, looking good, darling. I've actually have said that to you a couple times on air, right? That's some women consider that catcalling. It's not. It's, you know.
Well, that's another thing. So women have made it sound like men are the horrible predators, right? And that they catcall and it's horrible. Two things. One, if an attractive guy doesn't catcall you, they get mad.
They get mad. Yep.
And
Jenny just mentioned that.
Two, because everyone online has told them it happens all the time, and then they go out in the world and it doesn't happen, because they need to show that what is happening online, and they need to, what's the word that I want?
They're all whistling at you now.
I can see that.
Come on, keep them coming. Whistle, whistle, whistle.
Whistle, why are you because they need to rationalize that what they is happening online, is what people is telling them is happening online, is real life. They take innocuous interactions and blow them out of proportion. Like, honest to God, most time I've heard catcalling, it's a sincere compliment. It's a, damn girl, you look good. And that's it. No leering, no staring, no anything that would make it uncomfortable. It's you walk by, you say it, and then you walk on. That's it. There's no hovering, no lingering, no stalking, nothing. And women are so ready to believe that what is happening, or what other women are saying is happening online, to validate it, that they will go take a mountain or a molehill and make it into a mountain and blow it out of proportion in order to justify and say, see, Twitter was right, or Tumblr was right. It's happening all the time.
Yep.
There was a woman who walked around the streets to prove that catcalling was a problem. She walked with a camera.
Oh, I remember that.
Did loops around Harlem in the middle of the day in New York. And she tried to say that I got all this negative attention. I watched the video, and she pulled the worst of the worst, right?
Because she cherry picked the ones that fit her narrative. Yeah.
But even then, with the ones she cherry picked, most of them were just a acknowledgement of, you look nice, and then the guys walked on. The epidemic of, like, the way that women make it seem, you would think that they're being, like, dragged into alleys by their hair, shoved up against a wall, and, like, preyed on like men are vampires.
And a couple of points to make to what you're saying, right? First of all, they go looking for, like you said, right? So they'll take something like, geez, that dress looks great on you, and turn that into a catcall when it's just a compliment, right? The other side of it is, when they don't get them, they get angry, like you mentioned, but it also hurts them. They start having issues with, what's wrong with me that I don't get. All these women are online saying they're getting catcalled all the time. Nobody's ever catcalled me. Am I ugly? And then they start tearing themselves down for it. Again, ladies, how the F are you helping other women by doing this? You're hurting them.
I've seen that one. I've seen that one a lot of, well, I've never been catcalled. I guess I'm not pretty enough to be catcalled. And I'm like, wait a minute. Didn't 2 seconds ago you were talking about how, oh, guys are just pigs, and now you're mad that guys aren't pigs towards you?
Well, there's that one chick I have, let's call it, featured her a couple of times, and she's got a couple of really big points that she makes in every one of her videos, if you catch my drift. Y'all know who she is, because she doesn't know what a bra is to save her life. All right. And she's promoting her OnlyFans. I get that, but she'll make a video one and cat calling me and looking at me and saying things about it. And then 2 days later, she's got another video out going, why aren't men willing to ask me out and date me? She goes back and forth on it. She can do whatever the hell she wants. I don't care. Right. But the message, forget what she's saying to boys. The message she's sending to girls is, there's something wrong with you, because I get all this attention on the one video, right? Bounce, bounce, bounce. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Miss, 512 quadruple G's. It's just, again, it hurts women. Forget what it's doing to guys. It's hurting women. And yet they love it. They run with it. It's the same thing with all this stuff. They consistently do it. Adolescence is going to end up hurting women. Actually, I say more than it's going to hurt boys and men. Because now it's going to drive even more men away from women. It's going to cause more men who do need therapy to not get it. It's going to create dynamics where it encourages girls to bully boys until they snap. This hurts women more than it hurts boys, I'm going to argue. If you catch my drift with all that. But they don't see it that way.
Well, it's like this. So when The Handmaid's Tale came out, right? And women all took it as, oh, this is a fictional representation of what's really happening, that men really want this. And I'm like, first of all, this is our fantasy. And do you know how much I read a lot of, I'm going to out myself. I read a lot of fan fiction. Do you know how much of it is thinly veiled our fantasies, and it's all written by women? As a victim of I want to know what the hell is wrong with you.
Well, the romance novels.
Well, they've romanticized it, and it's like, oh, I want him to want me that much. You want him to violate you?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I had a client 10 years or so ago. Very prim and proper woman. Very nice woman, right? She would train with me and all that. But while we had a waiting room, before our training classes, she would sit and read these novels. And they were all those, the guys in this naked shirt and all that shit on the front cover.
Bodice rippers.
So I said to her one time, I said, give me the book. So she hands it to me, and I just went and riffled the pages and opened it. And right to a sex scene, right? So it became a running joke. She would bring a book in. I would rifle through the pages, never having read it, just pick a random page. And the joke was within 3 or 5 pages, there would be something alluding to that, right? Over and over. Now, this is a nice church-going, prim, proper woman reading this stuff. And I'm sitting there going, why? Why would you do that? And I actually asked her, and she's like, well, I find it interesting. To me, how is that any different than a guy going on OF or a certain hub, if you catch my drift? Just because one's in video form and the other's in written form, it's better because it's in written form. It's the exact same thing. But yet, that's acceptable. We can even have those kind of books in school. That's okay. But yet, if a boy, God forbid, looks at, certain magazines that are no longer in print, which we all did back in the day, oh my God, it's the end of the world.
First naked female I saw that wasn't me was in my dad's toolbox. I pulled out a drawer looking for a bit head. And
I remember, my father had certain magazines in his room that he had his tools in, and I found it. And then spent a lot of time in that room afterward, but we won't go there. Angel said something a little while ago that I really want to kind of touch on. Basically, what he said was, he doesn't understand because he was bullied all this time how he didn't snap, and that's a crucial point that we haven't talked about that we need to. That we want to vilify the boys that do snap, which, relatively speaking, are few and far between, right? There's too many school unalivings. Let's agree to that. But there's not one every minute of every day like they want you to believe. How about we have a discussion about, despite all the negativity directed at them, the abuse, the toxicity, the rampant, you're inherently bad because you're a boy, that is shoved down their throat every minute of every day from birth to death. How about we have a discussion about how is it that not more men aren't snapping? It speaks to how much control men have, and boys, over their emotions. That they aren't, it should be far worse than it is with the amount of toxicity that's directed at me on a daily basis. Go read the comments in my videos from women. Facebook in particular lately has been just laughable. I laugh at them, but
isn't that an interesting observation? Because if you read the comments, most of the hatred is coming from women. So
it always.
So it's proof that the men aren't snapping and they're not responding, but the women are. There goes that argument about who has better control over their emotions. Because if men were the cavemen that women think they are, there would be thousands of these cases everywhere, all the time. It would be an epidemic. The fact that it's not is proof that the evidence doesn't support the narrative.
Right.
And they're trying to use a fictional account as evidence to support their narrative because they can't find any real ones. I mean, they can't find enough real ones.
Right. So they're creating a phony one that they're now going to push into the UK schools. Let that sink in for a moment. If you haven't seen this, I don't want to advertise for it, but you need to go watch it. You really do. Just so you get a good understanding. And then you need to speak out against it. Especially if you're in the UK. Because trust me, this is going to get pushed into the UK school system. And if it gets pushed in there, guess what? It's coming to the US next. Guaranteed.
Hey, Dan.
Yes, sir. That's our producer, Curtis. Let's jump in, Mr. Curtis.
So I got a couple notes here because there's this. So what I have here is, in the military, I ran into this a lot, which was that tough guy persona. Don't be such a wuss. Come on, and then you advance to combat, and we spent 20 years in active combat. We ignore the implications of PTSD in male combat veterans. Then we talk about all of the things that they've gone through, all of the moral injuries that they've incurred over the last 20 years. And then we talk about that idea of resiliency and grit that males, and they actually showcase this very well, is that grit and resiliency is immense. It's just it's amazing that more males, more fathers who've been subjected to this sort of thing going back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today haven't unalived themselves. And then one of the other things that I noted was our words do hurt but we fail in showing our kids how to handle rejection appropriately.
Good point.
And why that is important. Why do we, how would I put it? Why is it that you and I can razz each other and we can talk mad shit to each other and give each other a hard time? I have 6 boys that I do this with. Guess what? The 7-year-old walks up to me and says, "Don't be a little bitch, Dad." But the point is, you know what? Someone could walk up to him and tell him call him a name, and he looks at him and says, "So, what are you going to do about it?"
Right.
It prepares them for the rejection, because we all get rejected in some form or fashion, in some way, that we need to be able to deal with it. It's kind of like people are not taking their kids to funerals anymore, but when they have this tragedy happen in their college age, they're losing their minds because they've never dealt with it. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is, I think it was Steve who said boys' schools and girls' schools, don't know for sure, but they should bring them back. And I agree, and I'll tell you why. Boys require 3 times the amount of play as girls. And the reason why boys require 3 times the amount of play, you want to know where we develop that restraint. That restraint is in the form of play.
Yep.
So,
question for you, Curtis, because you made some really good points. The main one that I want to kind of just ask you about, and it's in regard to your son. You think the difference is that he can go up to you and say that and, call you a bitch and all that stuff. He's learning restraint. He's learning how to handle it. Do you think that's because whereas someone who's raised by a single mother who's cut out the father as much as possible isn't going to get that? Because I've seen that with my wife. Now, we never had kids together, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she has said to me, because, like we'll get together with her cousins and him and I will just go at each other and laugh our asses off in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll sit there and go, "You're so mean. Why are you like that to each other? We're just, like you said, razzing each other," right? I think to me, it seems like it's the presence of a male role model, whether it's dad, a coach, or whatever. But I wanted to get your opinion on that.
So I would tell you, first and foremost, my kid knows that if he disrespects me in a malicious way, he knows that
Well, you
he's
set a
crossed
boundary
the line.
there, right?
So then you have this balance where you're balancing the dichotomy, right?
Right.
Well, now go forward. And what I've often taught my kids is you have to have that sort of relationship. Now, if you don't have that sort of relationship, it's funny because women don't do that. For men, calling each other an asshole or a jerk or whatever is a term of endearment to them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, hey, don't be a little bitch.
Yeah.
Get your ass over there and get into the mud with us.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Don't be whining. We got shit to do, work to be done. And while you're doing the work and that rejection is going on, what people don't know is that's what's forming the relationships. That's what's pushing the boundaries. And a lot of people don't understand that if I can push the boundary with you, Dan, then that means I can be brutally honest with you when I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if more men were like this, it would be the equivalent of steel sharpening steel.
Couldn't agree with you more. And that's the problem with single mother homes, right? Is that doesn't happen because women don't think that way. And I'm not knocking women by saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm simply saying women don't communicate that way. It's communication is what we're talking about. Men do, right? Spend 5 minutes on a football team and see what happens, right? The things we call each other on the football field. And I mean, I was one of the best trash talkers there was on a football field. I mean, as a nose tackle, my goal was to screw the center up on at least 2 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say just awful things about his mother, his sister. I'm going to bang your sister after the game. Isn't that her in the stands? Blah, 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 whatever. And if I messed up 2 snaps, because you got to do it quietly, because if the ref hears you, you're going to get flagged. I was great at it. But afterward, you would think the guy would be pissed at me because I was brutal. And guess what? They were giving it right back to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember one guy who was, now mind you, I'm 6'1" in high school, 280, right? And this little short shit, he was like 5'10" and probably weighed $190 soaking wet. And he came up, he was the center, and he looked at me and he goes, "The first time you jump, I'm going to cut your legs out." I laughed my ass off. I'm like, "Well, I'm going to land on you, dude." And we went back and forth the whole game. Afterward, we're hugging, right? I mean, we were nasty to each other. And we would, bro, blah, 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 because I can't say some of the stuff. And he would laugh. We do that all the time as guys. Women don't do that. And when they do things like that, there I said do, everybody's going to be happy now. They're doing it maliciously, right? I think that's the difference.
Oh, yeah. And the thing, okay, so when we talk about human behavior, period, right? It's kind of like, I recently listened to a boring little thing with the Iowa State Patrol and the Iowa Department of Public Safety had a thing a few months back where the director gave this like spiel. And he's like, we've got over 1,100 speeders that were 100 miles per hour or more. And that's what we pulled them over for. And in Iowa, the highest speed limit we have is 70. Okay, fine. So you're 30 plus miles per hour over the speed limit. And it's unacceptable to be going that fast. And he said, well, it's just because of COVID. People think that weren't going to get caught, and it's just never really died down. And I go, in the middle of the subcommittee, I go, bullshit.
Oh, that does make sense to me.
And I said, I'll quit it like this. And I know statistics inside now. Human behavior is predictable. So let's say I'm the speeder. I'm going 83 and a 70, and I blow past your state trooper, and he doesn't come after me. What's that tell me? I can push that boundary.
Go to 80 next time.
But I'm already at 83.
Yeah.
83 and a 70. So I can go to 90.
Yep.
And you wonder why we've got over 1,100 speeders going 100 miles per hour. The same is true here, because in play, because you and I are playing, calling each other jerks and whatever.
Saying the nice to keep it family friendly. Yeah.
Right. So what we get at is we learn that we can push the boundaries with each other because we're naturally doing it. But when something hits a nerve, and this is the cool part about hitting a nerve, your response that's negative, hey, I don't like that. I feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what else that play shows us? It teaches our kids not how to not be sociopaths because they feel guilt.
Right. Right.
So we need to show our kids rejection. We need our kids to feel these emotional responses. We need them to feel guilt. We need them to hurt people in a limited
and
capacity.
Be hurt. And
be hurt.
Right.
Yeah. That's how
Lindsay,
we
weigh in on this, because I want to get your opinion too, Linz. What do you think?
I
want the female opinion on two guys talking about this stuff.
Well, y'all just described the entire way I flirt with my husband. I call him an idiot, and that's the Princess Bride version of "As You Wish." That's how I tell him I love him. In fact, if I'm really feeling affectionate, I'll call him "you fucking moron." My dad taught me, though, to wear my insecurities like armor and to own them and to talk shit back, because then no one can hurt me without my consent. If I let every little thing wound me, then it's going to be death by 1,000 paper cuts. So I need to have a thick skin. And I don't often have men push that boundary, but I have women come after me just like you described. They do it maliciously. And they're like, you're a bitch. I go, yes, I am. Next. Or you're this or you're that. And I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. I stunned the crap out of the guy who came in to fix my internet because I was talking about my phone number. It's the last three letters, or the last three, not letters, the last three numbers or something else. And I said, I wanted 666. And he goes, most women wouldn't want that. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm a sarcastic, cold-hearted bitch. And I swear to God, his eyes crossed. He was like, what?
I'm surprised you didn't want 6969. But anyway, did he say that out loud on a family-friendly show? Yes, he did.
For the first time, I am not the problem.
You are not the problem. Hey, we got about 15 minutes left. Don't forget, because we're overdue on it. Show us some love. Give us the hearts. Give us the likes. Give us the shares. All that good stuff. Don't forget. Every hat and mustache gifted gets a yeehaw from Lindsay. That's for those of you on TikTok. I do want to address a couple things that popped up in the comments while Curtis and I and Lindsay were talking. I think it was Steve was saying, why do I keep dropping out? It's because my internet is being blasted right now because I send 3 streams out while we're doing this. So good news is I'm going to get fiber in the very near future, and that problem will go away.
Curtis, can you drop out? Because on TikTok, you can't see me.
Yep.
Get out, Curtis.
Oh, wait. What happened here?
And now he cuts Lindsay out completely.
Technical difficulties. We're experiencing technical difficulties. There we go.
I fixed it. Now he's back again. Now he's gone again. He's got to learn, guys. See, now
be nice to him, or don't be nice to him. You can razz him in the comments. He'll probably.
Oh hell, we're gonna give him crap for it. All right. One other thing I want to talk about with adolescence that we haven't touched on yet. That was, I don't know if you saw it, Lindsay. I forget where they covered it because you only saw the first episode or two, right?
First 2 episodes.
And I forget where it was in there, but the term incel.
Oh yes.
You did see that. And they were out there going, oh, it came from the manosphere and it's men running around saying it. And I'm like,
I have never heard a man call another seriously.
Well, I have, but come on. It is women who are doing it. I mean, I hear it every single day, literally hundreds of times from women. It is so 2019, ladies. Find some other insult to come out with.
Okay,
But for
so
them to say it's the manosphere that created it, I about puked.
well, no, it was the original term was involuntary celibacy, I believe.
Yes, that's where it comes from. That's what it stands for.
And it was women telling men that they're incels because you're involuntary celibate because no woman would
It's a
want
power
you.
trip for
It's
women.
a power
to say.
trip for women.
Yeah.
It has become a part of the internet lexicon. But the only people that I ever really see use it in real life are women, and they're using it to shame men.
Yeah. Which we just laugh about at this point.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it's them who's actually the, you know what, it's
projection. It's projection.
It's pure projection. Oh God, yeah.
I called a woman a bat signal the other day, and she didn't get it.
But the funny thing is, well, it's not funny. It's quite the opposite, actually. Again, they blamed it on the manosphere, and people are believing it. Manosphere didn't invent that term. Women did. Feminism did. They're the ones throwing it out every chance they get, to the point I'm like, ladies, come up with something new at least. Come on. Men can trash talk with the best of them. If I ever turned myself loose, and I lost the channel because I did one time, I would destroy women because their fifis wouldn't be able to handle it. But I have to restrain myself. They can say anything they want, right? They throw incel at me so many times, and I just I shake my head now. I'm bored with it. I used to laugh all the time. Now I'm just bored with it. It's like, if you think you're hurting me, honey, dream on, okay? And I'm not the only one. Most guys think that way. It doesn't hurt us at all. It might hurt an 8-year-old boy who's hearing it for the first time, but why are you saying it to an 8-year-old boy? I mean, come on.
See, I have the problem right now of my autistic eldest is very, very sensitive, and I really want to toughen him up, but I don't want to be cruel about it because I don't want him to be the type of person, and this would be the same if he were a daughter, but he is a son, that I don't want people to have the power over him to pull a string and have him collapse. Now, my other child, my youngest, who I affectionately call Gremlin, he's getting really good at giving back the same to me, and I'm proud of him for it. I mean, I tease him for it, and when he finds the line, like Curtis was talking about, when he finds the line, I tell him, you found the line.
Yeah. I did that with my kids.
And then he learns, okay, that's a line there. I'm not going to cross anymore. But for my eldest, I've told him over and over and over again that when you fall to pieces every time someone says something you don't like, what you have done is you have ceded control over your emotions to an external source. Mm-hmm. And you don't think people aren't going to take advantage of that or try to take advantage of that? People do that all the time with me. They assume that because I am female, you can say something to me and I'm just going to fall to absolute pieces. To which I always reply back that in order to insult me, I have to care about your opinion, and I don't. Or
which makes them even madder.
Which makes them even madder.
Oh God.
I got one right now. This woman is going. She keeps going nuclear. She hasn't told me anything that I believe yet. She's called me every name in the possible book. And some of them are quite good. I might compile a list of all of her insults and see if I can make an insulting poem about them.
Well, the day's going to come. We've got to do this where I have you read the comments to me so I can react to them. We've talked about it in the past because, like today alone, there was, I don't know, half dozen of them. And I ignore most of them because I don't care. But every once in a while, there's one I'm like, you know what? Let's have a little fun, right? And I'll use it as an educational experience, but I'll ignore the woman and what she's saying. I'll say, all right, gents, let's look at what's being said here, right? She's calling me bald. What she's really saying is that she views anyone who doesn't have hair as inferior, lesser, not worthy. So let's think about that. So a poor woman who unfortunately is going through, let's say, breast cancer and loses her hair because she's dealing with chemo, in that woman's eyes, she's deficient, lesser, Oh, they lose their minds when I do that, right? But I don't address them specifically. I use them as educational tools. Understand this is how women think. If you're looking at things like somebody's hair, or they love to say, "You're old." No, really? Yeah, I'm not 22. Guess what, honey? You look older than me. I'm just saying. And you got 16 gallons of makeup on and 4 filters on your picture. So hey, whereas I don't use any of that. But it speaks to the level they'll go to. But then you get adolescents reinforcing that behavior. And unfortunately, there are some guys that can't, especially younger boys, that can't laugh it off or ignore it. And that could be a beautiful example of maybe that's what Jamie, who was the kid in that film, went through. What if she was calling him an incel every day? Telling him you're so ugly, you're never going to get a girl, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of alluded to the fact she was saying that, right?
Well, not only that, it's not necessarily just that you'll never get a girl. It's that no one, the underlying message is no one wants you.
Right.
It's not just about the opposite gender. The idea
There's
of behind there's something wrong with you. No one would ever want you. And I lost my train of thought. The squirrel fell off the tree. It was a good thought too. Damn it.
I'm going to leave it to you. I don't know. Like people are talking about bald men. Hey, bald is beautiful. The more hair you lose, the more head you get. I'm just saying. Let it percolate. Those of you that didn't get it, let it percolate. You'll get it. But the fact that they tried to blame that on the manosphere tells you their motivation, right? Tells you that this isn't about addressing a real issue. Again, going back to the production company's name was Matriarch Productions or something like that, right? And yet the UK government is treating this as a well-researched, documented with data thing. And the squirrel has lost the nuts. It's anything but, and that's tragic. And it's oh, country, I am not the one that's naughty on live. That's Lindsay. I'm sweet.
But not today.
Not today. I've been on a roll today. But in the end,
I remembered what I was going to say.
I'll shut up. Go.
The boys who are being told all these things horrible all the time. The epidemic of fatherlessness means that we now have generations upon generations of boys who are being raised without that thing you and Curtis were talking about. They're being raised only on mothers. Yep. And that means they are overly sensitive to the point where they could snap easily. A father helps the son build armor. Very few mothers are capable of doing it. I can help my sons build armor, but their dad is doing most of the work. I just reinforce.
And that's not a slight on you.
That's not a slight on women.
Not in any way.
But you also have to remember that a lot of these problems they're more prevalent. They're not as prevalent as the media would let you believe, but they are more prevalent now than they were 100 years ago. And that is because you have boys being taught how to be boys by women who have no idea how to be men and who not likely didn't have a father figure in their own lives. And then because of that, the boys are deficient in a way, but it's not their fault. It's the mother's fault for either taking their father out of their life or not finding a good male role model, be it a Boy Scout leader, or trying to force the idea of feminism or feminine qualities onto the son, where you need to care about your feelings. No, because when boys don't wear that armor, when they're soft and squishy, like women want them to be, they're susceptible to the smallest thing.
And then the women reject them because they do have feelings.
Or they either are rejected because they do have feelings, or they snap that much easier.
Exactly.
And that's my point, is that these boys are being raised without the ability to grow a hard shell, to grow armor. And then women wonder why they're snapping at greater rates than they were 50 years ago. And I still say that it's a female made problem. I look at the movie Adolescence, and now I say every woman in this boy's life and every adult in this boy's life failed him.
Mhm.
And did he do it the right way? No, but he did it the only way he thought he could. And that's terrifying. The fact that the boy thought that was the only way he could survive.
And to your point, the final scene of that, and I know you haven't seen it, is the father in the boy's bedroom, sits down and cries, which is a legitimate thing, right? Because he feels guilty that he let his son down. As I would argue, he should, right? But they never show the mother feeling any remorse whatsoever. If anything, she thinks that she's done a great job. And again, it goes to vilifying men and boys, fathers, and all that, and just ignoring what women and girls do. You know, in the end, because we got to wrap things up, this show is the personification of the toxic war against masculinity, as I put it. You know, it's propaganda designed to demonize men and boys, masculinity, those of us who speak out on men and boys issues, and really just say that anything that happens to boys, they deserve. In the end, that's really what the message is. And if we don't speak out against it, you know, it's, guys, if you're watching and send emails, it's, you know, if you don't want to look them up, go to the video on YouTube where I have it. Down in the description, I have because I just looked it up, the Netflix chairman, the 2 CEOs, the chief content officer, and I also put Netflix's customer service number. Call them and say, why are you promoting this? If you don't have Netflix, doesn't matter. Like a lot of guys on the comments, well, I don't watch Netflix, I don't have it, I don't need to do anything. No, you need to pick up the phone, because if we don't Bud Light them, guess what? Adolescence 2 is going to come out, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. You need to do something on this. 1 10-minute thing, and you can send the emails out and just say, you don't even have to write a novel. Just speak from your heart. Trust me, it will make a difference. And yeah, I don't have Netflix. I signed up to get it, and then I canceled it as soon as I had watched this. And I put in my note why I canceled it, because I will not watch your misandrous garbage like you had with Adolescence. That'll send a message. All right, Lynn, what's your final thought?
What is trouble heading my way? Oh, do you mean like weather? My final thought is I have not watched all of it yet. I'm going to force myself to watch it so that I can write a impassioned but stern but not screaming letter to all those involved. I agree with Dan. I think this is going to hurt girls more than it is boys. But the takeaway I have from what I have watched, the 2 episodes, is that we cannot consistently make men into monsters and then blame them for being what they were made. That's what society is doing. They're making men into monsters, or trying to make men monsters. And they're blaming, like I said earlier, they're blaming the product of the environment rather than the environment itself. If we wanted to fix the problem, we should fix the thing that keeps making the problem.
Did you
just a thought?
Did you watch my video? Because you just used my last thing that I said, like almost verbatim.
I got halfway through your video.
We think so much alike. It's freaking scary. You are my daughter. I'm telling you. I think my DNA is channeling through your bloodstream, because that is scary. All right, we do have to wrap things up. First of all, I want everyone to give us a heart and say thank you to Curtis for his first time producing the show and not really screwing it up. And his contributions. He will be joining in from time to time, as he did. I will not be here next week. I am taking a week off. Hopefully my girl and my boy might want to do a show. I will leave that up to them. They're more than capable of handling it, but I am going off the grid starting next week for an entire week. There will be videos posting. I've been filming like crazy. but I'm not going to be responding to anything. I am literally cutting off the internet, going to New Orleans. So anybody in New Orleans, see you in a couple of days.
Nolans, you're going to
New Orleans, because they got to say it right. I'll be eating beignets for breakfast, chicory coffee, and I don't eat seafood, so I got to find something else to eat down there.
Boudin balls.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. It's been on my bucket list forever. But I will leave it to Lindsay and Curtis. They're more than capable of running a show. All right, Lindsay, any final thoughts from you before we wrap it up?
Nope, that's it. That's all she wrote. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.